Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Talking Skritt. I'm your host John, better known as Dale. Runyak spent a fantastic show for you. NCSoft's earnings for Q1 2017, sizing up our enemy, an interview with an old familiar face, and much more. But first, let me introduce you to my fellow host. He writes on his blog, agegaming.wordpress.com, where answers the age-old question: if we just had a human god return and an interview surfaced of Colin Johanson, would it mean he was a human god of Tyria too? Say hello to Age.
The human god of joy. That's what I'm going to go with.
He's the anti-Cormier.
That smile, right?
Yeah, he's the anti-Cormier.
What's up, guys?
All right, and if you can tell, we're a little bit light on people today, but that'll happen every once in a while, and every blue moon. But let us jump right into it. First up, we have the NCSoft earnings report for the previous quarter, which would be quarter 1, 2017. And we have the graph, at least, of all the different ones. And I think it was last time we already talked about like how WildStar got kind of pushed into other sales, but you can kind of see the sales breakdown by IP. And I mean, good news is Guild Wars 2 is pretty stable. I mean, there was still that big drop off from literally 1 year ago in the first quarter, but that was kind of still coming off the Heart of Thorns expansion hype, which, you know, we've talked about in the past. It's to be expected. Like, that's kind of the cycle of MMOs. I mean, so I guess it's good that, you know, they're basically maintaining. It's a small incremental downslope, but it's not significant, I would say, if you look.
Yeah. Well, it's actually really good because it's keeping steady throughout. It's not like fluctuating up and down. And you'll see a rise, obviously, with the expansion. It'll go down again, and it might be higher next time, or it might just stay around the same next time. So I'm pretty much expecting it to stay around the same pacing. Maybe a little less next quarter, depending when the next expansion is and all that stuff. So when hype for the expansion starts up again, you might see next quarter, the quarter that happens, you might see a small increase. But,
well, since it's first quarter, that would just be January, February, March. So kind of curious to see, because this isn't including, if you think about it, the announcement of Legendary Armor coming, the kind of lore tease, you know, that they had with the past Living Story, and, you know, however you feel about the Living Story, you know, it was a lot of information there. I mean, it had a lot of lore stuff, a lot of big things happened. I'm kind of curious to see what second quarter will hold. So I think it might actually peak back up a little bit, not to where the first quarter of 16 was, but.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because I think it's Living Story keeping things afloat right now. In addition to, like, they've been doing different types of iterations in the Gemstore with sales and discounts and things like that. So I think they're trying to find the best way in order to provide a service like you know, that people will enjoy, like, will spend their money on, but also at the same time, you know, it's income for them as well. So I think they're slowly getting there. But yeah, pretty happy about that. Another interesting one, it's not really Guild Wars 2, but is Lineage, and that drop off is not what you think it is. It's because there is a new Lineage game coming out, so there's hype for that. So you're going to see probably a drop off in people playing Lineage. And
which I think when I looked it up, because it's called Lineage M, I think this is supposed to be like a mobile version of it. Which, if you think about it, it's like since it's so huge in you know, the East, that's kind of mobile is kind of bigger, you know, there than.
So, mobile is extremely huge in the East, especially even before smartphones. So
yeah,
you're probably there. Yeah, there's probably going to be a dip in like lineage. It's the PC game, and it'll probably more than make up for it in the mobile version. So
Okay, yeah, Max Stats is confirming that, yeah, it is the mobile version. So yeah,
yeah,
so it, you know, overall it seems like NCSoft is doing all right with their IPs across the board. I mean, nothing
those
too
other
alarming
sales.
or yeah.
I
No, go ahead.
mm, I was going to say poor WildStar, but I can't tell anymore.
Uh,
I
they're lumped into other sales.
I
They might be
yeah
doing they might be
I don't
doing
know how
well.
they.
They're somewhere in that 34,000.
I really do. Oh man. Oh well.
Yeah, we can't do that anymore, unfortunately, because we don't have the numbers to back it up. That's the worst
Yeah.
part about it. We can't be like, oh, poor Wilson.
Yeah. We're gonna. I think we'll circle back to this discussion if we're gonna because we're talking about MMOs in general. But yeah, it's something I'll circle back to.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, final thoughts. There wasn't too much to say about this, but just showing it for people that haven't seen it. That, the game's certainly not dying. It's in a stable, you know,
yeah.
spot.
Despite all the complaints about
Hmm.
World vs. World and PvP and legendary armor and raids, the game is still doing okay.
It's still
So
doing financially well. That's important to note because I mean, theoretically, it could be there's no one in there, but four people, and four people are buying all this stuff. I mean, that's an extreme. That's
yeah,
not happening, but
I think
you
it's
know.
all those elemental swords that kept it.
Oh, God. Don't put that in their head of, oh yeah, let's put more in the RNG boxes. No.
I'm just saying. Just putting it out
No,
there.
and like chat saying like, yeah, the leaks and stuff that might have
Oh,
drummed up some stuff, but I don't know how much of that trickles out to the rest of the gaming world, which we're actually gonna talk about later. This episode's very much of the outside affecting Guild Wars 2. It seems like.
yeah, that's fine.
Next up we have for people that aren't aware, we don't talk about this person that much. That underscore shaman, kind of a data miner of Guild Wars 2. You'll probably see him a lot on his Reddit posts. He also has his own blog. Um, Usually we don't talk about him because we usually don't talk about like the leak content of leaks or data mine stuff until it actually launches. But this one isn't really like a spoiler. This is kind of them just, or that shaman just kind of comparing uh Primordus that we saw in the last episode to maybe other spots in Tyria, which first up he did a post of just comparing his head size that we see from the map. There you can originally see the map during the living story, and then he kind of puts it into other spot areas. You can kind of see the scaling there. You're gonna have to probably look pretty hard first as a human, then the jaw of Primordus, and then both of them. And now you can see like he does Dragon. No, not Dragon's Watch. Oh, geez, I'm blank on the name. What's the last zone in Heart of Thorns?
The last zone,
Where
Dragon's
you fight
Den.
Dragon Stand. There we go. I knew it was Dragon something. But yeah, you can see like Divinity's Reach and a bunch of other ones. But um, yeah, what are your thoughts on the massive head of Morjamoth photobombing?
It could literally eat the grove in one bite.
Yeah,
That's pretty awesome, and terrifying at the same time. But it's kind of interesting. I was talking today a little bit earlier about the size of Primordus in comparison to Zaitan, who we fought on pretty much. I guess we can't say on one map because he was kind of in the distance. So
yeah,
he could have been the size of a map, but I feel like Zaitan is smaller in comparison to Primordus, and believe you said it was something like Primordus is older. He's one of the oldest of the dragons, so he might be bigger in that respect.
Yeah, that's one theory of why he supposedly might have changed so much is what some people are running with that theory of because he had
Okay.
more time to possibly consume magic. Maybe that's why he's so much bigger.
Yeah. That's pretty big dragon.
Well, actually, that shaman also did a follow up post showing um, the possibilities of the body as well across Tyria, depending on which dragon form he might take, and he kind of uses the examples that we've seen in the past, so that's kind of interesting. But first one you can see here is if he had like a kind of Toquaddle or type, like an actual like what you would think of as a kind of fantasy dragon form. The next one
Yeah.
is like the mouth of Morgemoth kind of a style, and then the last one is the internal mind Morgemoth thing. I think he called
Yeah.
it the Pudgy Quaggan version.
Pudgy Quack. Um. So one thing I noticed right away is that the Primordus model that looks like an actual dragon, it's really big in comparison to the dragon brand that's on the right of the map. And that was just an interesting look opinion, but they also pointed out that it may be like a wide shot of Primordius. He could get smaller as he lands on the map, but I still think he'll take up like 2-3 maps, which is pretty epic. And
Which I
so
don't mind because if we think about these Elder Dragons, they're supposed to be big and consume the planet of Tyria, and we're just dealing with the continent of Tyria. Like, I would expect them to kind of be that big if they're supposed to be these world eaters. I mean,
yeah, so I was thinking it'd be really cool if we fought these one of these dragons via like cross map, and they have brought up Scarlet and in that respect, so that'd be kind of neat. For those who didn't know, Scarlet had like map. There was like invasion events. Are you talking about the invasion events?
yeah.
So basically, the invasion events happen on different maps, and like everyone would just go to different maps and stop them and things like that. So it'd be kind of neat to do that, but without the lag and the issue with champ bags. But
I mean, granted, Guild Wars 2 has come a little like a far away from. Like, I think the maps have gotten better, like more stable a lot of time. I mean, we still sometimes have bags and bags and bags and bags, but hopefully eventually we'll get some kind of way out of that. But yeah, I would kind of
yeah,
like to see like kind of like what you're saying, like it spans across and like maybe one zone is in charge of like fight the left wing of Primordus, fight the right wing, fight the body, fight
yeah,
the like each zone has to do a different thing and there's different mechanics to it while it's probably also raining
yeah.
destroyers down.
So for that, it has to be very interactive because you're fighting a wing. You're not actually fighting the entire dragon. So it has to be interactive in that respect. So I would say like tons of mobs, and it's kind of like how Dragon Stand works, but like on a slightly smaller scale, so that it's interactive for the players in how to get to the dragon wing or to how to set up to or to do damage to it, things like that. And that'd be really. We're getting political just a little bit, I
Well,
guess.
I mean, maybe that shaman knows something. I know he hates when people say that, but I mean, look, the tip of that wing does touch Divinity's Reach. It's just very political. It's a sign.
It's a sign. But
It's
yeah,
not.
but yeah, I think it could be very interesting. I don't know if Arena could actually do that type of thing. I don't know if they want to do that type of thing. I don't know what plans they have in order. Like, at this point, I don't know how we're gonna fight future Elder Dragons because honestly, I know I want the Shadow Colossus experience, but I don't know if they can ever do that if the dragons are gonna be this big. So
Yeah, like
um,
honestly,
uh,
while I would like something like we're talking about with like the kind of Tequaddle-esque like what we think of as a dragon, I could see them doing the either the like Mouth of Morgemoth one where he just like pokes out of a zone, or just the Pudgy one where he's just walking around in a zone.
Mm.
Because you can see he's taking up a. I think that's uh, I am blanking on so many names. Lost Shores. How do I remember the update, but not the actual South Sun? Sorry.
South Sun? Oh, okay.
Yeah, where it's at, it's like taking up all of South Sun. So.
Hmm. That's fair. Definitely. If we ever fight another Elder Dragon, I want to know what kind of way they'll innovate that fight, because I think we could all agree I-10 wasn't the best experience for it, but the Morgemoth fighting it on two fronts, is kind of an interesting take on it. I think it actually went rather well.
Yeah, I think it was buggy, and it might still even be buggy after changes, but I think it was a good step in the right direction, like of something that was
I'm talking about the concept of the fight in general. I think that was a good idea. I think eventually people just want to fight a huge ass dragon. I know I want to fight a huge ass dragon, but it's just how you're going to do it, and if it's just going to run well. So that's really the constraints that they have. So we'll see what happens.
And I think, I'm sure we have played through the story, and we do know, the end result of what happens and the possibility, but I don't know.
We had a good run. Let's kill it.
Yeah, and we don't fully understand everything. It might not be the end. Who knows? But any final thoughts on the size of Primordus?
I'm interested if it's actually proper scaling, the way that shaman's showing it. Just because of the dragon brand alone, that has me interested, because Krakatoric made that. So if Krakatoric is around the same size, it looks like Krakatoric just literally took 5 steps south. So that's what interests me the most. Right?
Well, that's how he knew where to go. He as he flew up, he was like, "Oh, I can see it right there." Oh.
There you go.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting if you did watch Guild Chat this Friday, they actually talked about when they had him on the map for scaling reasons. I think they said they used the Super Adventure Box like the alligator crocodile face or head or something, which I think Ruby even said, and I would strongly agree. I would love to see a picture or a video of that, like, where you could actually see the big croc head.
I'm actually, you reminded me about something, because I remember a tweet I read that's it said a dev on Guild Chat pretty much just unintentionally confirmed that this isn't the last we've seen of Primordus, because he said that designers were reluctant to put the dragon's head in the game because that meant commitment to using that model in the future. So it's kind of how you interpret that, I guess, is kind of up to you. But
I think that just means like the same way of they don't like retconning lore. Like the more you talk about something, that's where you're narrowing that, position, whether it's lore, whether it's look of something. I mean,
yeah. So at the same time, it's like saying, oh, this is the model that we'll use for Primordus from now on. So we might see Primordus in the future, but that means if they do Primordus, they'll use that model. That's the way I took it. So
yeah, that's how I saw it. But I mean, that's.
I tried to pick this, and it didn't go.
And yeah, so I mean, hopefully we see Primordus again. It would be a shame if all that work. Yeah. I mean, granted, it was just the head. I mean, still a lot of work went into it, but there's still a whole body that we don't know about. Let us talk about, like I said, an old familiar face. So this past week, a YouTuber by the name of Is Kamar started a podcast where he interviews game devs. And surprisingly enough, his first interview was with Colin Johanson, which, for people that don't know, if you're relatively new to Guild Wars 2, Colin Johanson was basically the like kind of the dev face for Guild Wars 2. He was like the hype train. He was originally the lead game
He
designer.
was the hype train, like all of it.
Yeah. kind of like that Mouth of Morgemoth look. That was him. Like he was the whole thing. But yeah, they Is Kamar kind of asked like some general questions about like Colin's journey through industry, and they talked to some about MMOs of today and whatnot. But I could see he was definitely trying to ask him like oh, what would you change about like Guild Wars 2 or stuff. But I to be honest, to give props to Colin, I mean, I know he's done it so many times, but I think he managed very well to, not burn bridges or be,
Yeah. One thing I'm glad he kind of confirmed was that he left on good terms. So there was always that issue of like he's leaving where everyone else is leaving, what happened type of deal. But he said in the interview he actually did leave on good terms. Like there was a change in his life. His wife was starting a business. He wanted to help out at home, and he wanted to help his wife, support his wife in that respect. He did the hour and a half trips to Bellevue and things like that. And so when Amazon actually came to him and offered him the opportunity, it's like, oh, well, this is like perfect timing in his life. And so it was just a good transition for him. It was also something for him to try something new. It was closer to home. He could, help out his wife and things like that. So that was actually a really nice thing that he kind of confirmed, but like he already confirmed it, but it's like, in that interview, it just, felt like it for sure.
Yeah, you got to hear it from his mouth, because I think when he talked about, like, when people talked about it, it was like you didn't hear him say it. It was either written or you actually got to hear him say it, which, I don't think anybody was lying about it, but, some people might have.
Yeah.
But yeah, he did talk about some interesting things about MMOs today, and he kind of had like that look on his face where he was glad that he's not right now not on an MMO. Like it seemed like
it. Yeah, and that's kind of just into our next topic, but the point he brought out about MMOs today and what they should do is that they should focus on one aspect and just roll with it, and then you could further expand later on. I think that was actually very inspiring, because right now, like, indie developers are kind of like the thing that's going on right now, because everything is either like an IP that's used and it doesn't live up to like expectations in the past, or they're just not games that are coming out that are like not like AAA games that are just kind of like iterations of what you expect. So indie games kind of bring that new innovation, that type of different style of games. But there are some AAA companies. There are companies that pump out AAA games that are well, not pump out, I would say deliver on AAA games that are pretty solid, like Overwatch or Paladins or something like that. So, yeah, it's interesting to see his take on that.
Yeah, because then kind of like what you were saying with the whole like indie scene, like I think he even posed the question to Iskamar was, when you go to like one of the conventions or something, he's like, I primarily go to like the indie like spot, which I know from talking with Arlie and I think you as well. Like when you guys all went to like PAX that one time, it's like you guys mostly hit up like the indie scene, which it seems like that's becoming more and more popular if you like the idea of possibly new ideas and innovation. But if you do like the continuous Call of Duties or whatever. I mean, that's fine too.
Yeah. What was interesting is that, well, now you bring up PAX, it's like, because there was games like League of Legends, Overwatch, and things like that. It's like those are games I already play, right? Games I've heard of or games already played. The indie section brought, there were smaller booths, but at least, most of them, but, they had some interesting games going on. I forgot the name of the one I tried. It was really cool. It was like a puzzle game, 3D adventure puzzle game, which was really cool. And I think it's actually going to come out this year. So games like that, that offer different types of innovation, different styles of gameplay, which is really cool. It's really fun to make. But I think when it comes to MMOs versus like multiplayer games in general, I think that's where people are starting to make niches, and I think that's where Colin was going into. So I think he said if there's one thing he could change about Guild Wars 2 when before it came out, like the first thing came out, is that he would focus more on some concrete things and get those out really well done, and then work on the other things afterwards. So that was, and you see that happening a lot with other MMOs like Crowfall. It's like Realm versus Realm. You have Camelot Unchained. I think it's also Realm versus Realm. There's Ashes of Creation that has plethora, like 4 systems working together as one MMO. And
they're just primarily focusing on certain core ideas and just running with that and not trying to, because it made it sound like, going off of Ash's creation, because he does mention that in there, it kind of seems like almost a survival sandbox MMO type thing. Like it still has, I think, the RPG elements of a class and whatnot, but like the PvP is if there's 2 sides that rise up and don't like one another, like that type of thing, that's the PvP. But you can all, so it's making it more like a medieval real life type of experience, fantasy medieval.
Totally cool. Yeah. I really like the concept for Ashes of Creation, and it's not just MMOs either. I mean, you have Player Battlegrounds, I think it was called, Pugby, but that's kind of like
before Overwatch and all them. Like they're not MMOs, but they're specializing. They're taking their concept and trying to do it as well as they can, and not trying to
exactly. Yeah.
I mean, that's the one thing I know I've said. It's like Overwatch, they need a PvE mode so I can learn the lore. Maybe down the road they'll do that, but right now they're
actually they do PvE events that tell you a little bit about lore segments. So that's Player Unknown Battleground. That's it. Thank you, Tyler. But yeah, it's interesting because I think we're just getting to that stage where, and it kind of goes into our next topic. But if you like MMOs, you like the vastness of the world, you like exploring, you like doing all these different aspects, you like growing as a character. That's kind of games like Guild Wars 2, World of Warcraft, Rift. Those are the types of games for you. If you want to solely play PvP or an FPS PvP, maybe Heroes is more for you, or something like that. But so it's all about finding the games you like to play, and that may not necessarily be an MMO.
So before we get to the next topic, because like Age is saying, that does kind of mix in with this, and since it is a Guild Wars 2 podcast, he did talk about Guild Wars 2 in the sense of, and I think this is important to note, because they bring up the MMO manifesto.
And, yeah.
He said, he talks about how he became a meme out of that and all that stuff. But it was kind of interesting to hear that, them say when they were recording that, the game wasn't really even I think he said barely in a playable state. Like it was just getting out of, it just started as a playable state, if it even was. I'm trying to remember, but basically the team, when the team was recording it, they said, they still had all these concepts, and they're like, what, their question was, to them, what do you want the game to be? What do you want it to do? And like, so that, like a manifesto and kind of like a mission statement that you would see from like a, any job or something, like this is the goal we strive for.
Yeah.
These aren't guarantees, these are something we're trying to shoot for. If you look at it that way, I think that, changes a lot of it. Unfortunately, people took it as these are the things that were promised to us, which,
I mean, I think, okay, so living world, when it comes to living world, that's a little hard to do in and of itself, just because you have to keep the world constantly changing, but not so much that new players coming in don't know what the heck happened beforehand, right? And I understand that now. When I came into Guild Wars 2, I was fully expecting kind of, for example, Queensdale. I've said this example a few times, but for Queensdale, there would be centaurs, and they would eventually push into the land, and then you as the players would have to push back in order to take back the land, and it would kind of be like a constant push-pull. That's what I thought, like, a living world would be, like a constant struggle for different things depending on the map you're on. We didn't get that, not to the extent that I imagined it, but
I was say there is those spots in Queensdale where you can push them back, or they can push you all the way to a certain spot. But I think, and I remember talking about this on Twitter throughout the week, I think that's the biggest problem is Guild Wars 2 is trying to make a living world, or still is making a living world, in kind of a less strict theme park. Like, it's still like a theme park MMO. You still have a designated path to go. Like, it kind of pushes you there. You still have options, but it's not as strict as some MMOs out there. But
yeah,
you can't it's really tough to kind of halt that progression, unfortunately.
Yeah.
At least that's the design choice they made.
You would honestly need, the way that they could do Living World now is offer different flavored conversation with NPCs across the different maps. I think it would take a team of 5 people to do that. Maybe less, maybe more. I'm not sure myself, but kind of just updating little things that, if the world started, like this small area started in this state, we had this happen, X, and so on and so forth. And maybe a year later, something different is happening here now. But it still retains like all the points of interest, hearts in some respects, and that would be very interesting for me anyway.
Mm-hmm. And that's also starting to bleed into this this next topic of while I actually saw that, I saw this other video that was recommended to me, which was from YouTuber Skylent Shore, and they basically, the title is kind of engaging. It just basically talks about why you shouldn't play MMOs, and I'm like, don't you tell me what to do, So I had to click on it, ready to shout. But no, Skylent Shore actually brings up a lot of good points of, and kind of like what Age was starting to hit upon was, and like what we talked about with Ashes of Creation, where, and Overwatch and all of them, like where they're taking concepts, like that you can find in MMOs, because it seems like MMOs, and I'm a little rusty on my engineer profession, but is it still a user of all roles but a master of none type thing, like a jack of all trades but master of none?
Engineer?
Well, I know before HOT that's how it was very much like.
Huh. I don't think they're as good as healers with other professions now, but
okay. Well, then I guess I'll safely go with pre-HOT. That's kind of how they had that mentality. And that kind of seems like what MMOs in general, not just Guild Wars 2, are kind of like, where they throw out all, like, PvP, PvE, World v. World now, all these subsets within that, all those big systems. Then you have the economy, then you have, part of the lore, all that stuff. And a lot of these structures that You know, kind of like what we said, Overwatch, you can have that PvP experience, and it's
Mhm.
just that they do it, you know, exceptionally well. It's and so along with the other games, Paladins and whatnot, because that's all they're focusing on. Kind of like what you said, Crowfall. That's going to be kind of that world v world experience. And I know Inks has talked about it in the past, where you know what's going to happen when these games come out to world v world for Guild Wars 2, since it looks like Crowfall is going to do it better because that's all they're focusing on.
Yeah, and
So yeah,
yeah, and again, it's just finding the game mode that you like to play, and it may not Skyline Shore is saying it in a way, so it's like it may not necessarily be an MMO that you're looking for. I think that's his main idea here. So if you're looking for something like PvP, for example, Guild Wars 2 has some good PvP. I will say, despite all the complaints and stuff about that, PvP is actually fun. It's at least to me anyway. But there are other games that have PvP. Maybe not action combat-y. I mean, there's Blade and Soul that has PvP in there. There's that's another MMO. They have Black Desert has world PvP when you reach a certain level. That's another MMO. But there's other non-MMO games. There's and not necessarily in an MMO environment, but you have like Heroes, which is a hero shooter. You have Overwatch, which is a hero shooter. I mixed up. You actually do have Heroes, which is a MOBA. You have LoL, you have Paladins, you have Smite, you have Player Unknown Battlegrounds, and there's a whole bunch of different options that you could check out and see which is for you. For me, when it comes to PvP, I like Guild Wars 2, but I also like Overwatch. I like Heroes. So, I have different outlets for PvP. But, when it comes to playing an MMO, when I want that story type of experience, when I want to, engage in different maps and lore and all that stuff, Guild Wars 2 is the game for me when it comes to that. So, it's all about how you want to play games and what is for you.
yeah, and I'm personally a fan of like the massive content of I love the zone events. That's why when Age brought up the whole thing of possibly fighting Primordus across multiple zones, I was like, yes, like bring it back, like the Scarlet thing, like everybody has to band together, like or like what was it, Marionette, like Twisted
Oh
Marionette,
man,
like
that was
yeah,
so much fun.
yeah, it was just I always liked that idea of those massive ones, and I, I I don't know, I felt like the hot ones. I don't know if it didn't really feel like they captured or at least maintained those people after maybe because Twisted Marionette was only like a what 4 week because it was probably there for both 2 week sets. So
Yeah,
maybe since it wasn't there that long, people didn't grow tired of it. I don't know, but it just doesn't seem like I don't know. It doesn't seem that risky anymore. Like go through the
that's
motions.
yeah. I do want them to bring back festivals because I think that was a really strong point for Guild Wars 2 when it comes to downtime and PvE content. Um, so they did talk about festivals last week where they just put it in the game. They have an on-off switch. So hopefully do that more in the future with other things. Um, yeah, it was an interesting video to watch,
Yeah,
and
and we'll have the link in the YouTube description, and we'll try to throw it here in the chat and whatnot. But um, yeah, they're definitely good, definitely interesting to think about.
yeah, for me, like I'm a multi-gamer type of person. I like playing different types of things. I like learning different types of things. So uh, for me, it's not necessary when it comes to finding different games. It's just finding something that I like to play in general. It doesn't necessarily have to be just like PvP or anything like that. It's just like if it's a good game, and it's something I like, I'll definitely play it.
Hmm. Yeah, and I'm pretty much the same way. And sometimes, even if I'm not a fan of it, I'll try to give it a whirl. Like, because sometimes, like I, I played WoW a lot longer than I probably would have if I didn't have like the friends that I was playing with at the time. It's like that's
Yeah,
what kind of keeps you in is if you're playing with a good group of people where maybe you laugh at the stuff together or whatever. As long as you're enjoying yourself. But yeah,
yeah, exactly.
I mean that's what have always enticed me about like community uh community gaming communities over like just gaming guild like a one guild for each thing. It's like, oh hey, what's going on in that channel? Like, oh they're playing Overwatch or something. Let me poke my head in. Oh, those sound like they're having fun. I'm gonna I have it. I haven't played in a
Yeah,
while. Blah blah blah. But yeah, so definitely give that a watch, and I'd love to hear people's opinions on maybe has there been an MMO or a game outside of MMOs that you've been drawn towards that remind you of that MMO feeling?
yeah.
It's your MMO fix. um, let us talk about Guild Wars 2 was actually on the subreddit for gaming under their daily discussion this past week. Which oh boy, then everybody had everybody. I
Hmm.
liked it because at first, like I think the first comment in the Guild Wars 2 subreddit was like, "Oh boy, get ready to hear some opinions from like 3 years ago that everything is this and that." And then next comment was like, "You know what? Actually, people are like talking like civilized and not like just burning like say being like it's horrible, it's a dead game or something." It's like so I don't know. I was like, "Huh? See,
Wow, I
yeah,
can't believe there's
yeah,
sensible people
exactly."
on Reddit.
That's kind of the reaction that they gave. It's like see,
They exist.
the Guild Wars 2 nicest community thing is spreading. Apparently,
Hmm.
we're like corruption. We're infecting the Reddit dragon.
Hmm. Talking about games that gave me the same MMO feeling is actually Dark Souls. That's an interesting one because
Is that almost like maybe for like a big raid fight like thing, but maybe only on a single player stance? Like I'm kind of curious about that. That because Dark Souls is primarily well, don't they have that like online system where you could like leave a note for someone or
I, I actually kind of feel like Dark Souls is kind of raiding, but in a singular aspect where you have to time your dodges, you have to get in those attacks properly, otherwise, and if you screw up, yeah, it's on you to fix it, either by healing or getting out of there, stuff like that.
oh,
And there's PvP, I think, too, which could be very interesting.
okay, yeah. Apparently you can
Oh,
join other people's games. I knew
oh,
they had like
sweet.
some kind of like note system, but I didn't know you could fully join them. So that's
That's fun too. Nice.
yeah, if that's the case. Might have to find someone to eventually do a playthrough with that. That'd be kind of funny. They're saving
I,
my butt.
I just know that game will make me rage internally, so that's why I have not bought one.
Hey, you want to pair up with me? You'll just normally rage, and I'll be running around like making it worse. You'll be like, just stop. I'm like, no. Uh,
Sure, why not? We can make a stream out of it. It could be fun or not. I could just
fun
keep
for me,
crying
probably
internally.
probably a
I
nightmare
would
for
just
you.
keep crying internally. uh, oh man.
Um. Oh, I'm sure there's a lot of lore to it. I had to be invested. I was already invested with Guild Wars 1. I mean, it takes me a
Hmm.
lot to get invested to something. Like, I'm not even. I mean, I know this is probably like heinous to say, but I'm not even a big Mass Effect fan. Neither are my dogs, apparently. Do you want to talk about Guild Wars 2's Reddit thing while I go check this out real quick? Beer.
Sure. All right. So, in this Reddit daily discussion, basically, we'll put a link. I'll put a link to it in chat. But basically, they just summarize the game a little bit, and then they have these questions in bullet point form. So the questions are: how does Guild Wars 2 compare to other MMOs? Was the story well written? Did you enjoy it? Do you enjoy the content that's been added, living worlds, add-ons, etc.? And what does the game shine? Where does the game shine the most? PVE or PvP? How does the game compare to its predecessor? Do you like the changes they make from Guild Wars 1? And what would you change about the game if you could? And all of these are really cool bullet points that, I've never really thought about till now, at least half of them. And it'd be nice if Inks from Milfans were here, because I think it'd be a really good discussion to have. But Dale, how does Guild Wars 2 compare to other MMOs to you?
I mean, while I think we say this all the time. While we kind of always are like nitpicking at it, I think it's still one of the best MMOs out there. I mean, it has a lot of nice convenience to it, but I mean, sometimes you also do want to play other MMOs for another different experience.
Yeah, I like I like the freedom that Guild Wars 2 has, because you can play it whenever you want, type of deal, and you don't have to worry about, like, you can do your dailies or whatever if you really want to, or you can just leave it alone for a little while, and you can come back for things that you're interested in, like PvP seasons or Living World, or World versus World every now and then if you're into that. I like the freedom it gives, because especially when I was back in school, I didn't have a lot of times at times to play Guild Wars. For example, when South Sun event came up the very first time, so that was when events were time gated into like 2 weeks, I think it was.
Hmm.
So I only had time to play South Sun stuff on the weekends, but that was super fun. It was super enjoyable, um, and and it's even better now. I feel like, in terms of granting you that freedom, because you can pretty much play whenever you want, unless like you play organized content like raids, or if you have a World versus World guild that you raid with regularly, or things like that. But I just like that freedom. Oh, there's a
Yeah, I'd have to
level
agree
of
with what a former monk is saying.
yeah,
And
yeah.
if people can't read it, they said there's a level of fluidity that the movement, combat, and overall gameplay of Guild Wars 2 have that other MMOs simply lack in my experience. Whenever I try another MMO, it feels clunky and sluggish in comparison. Yeah, I can understand that because while I still like play ESO here and there. While I think ESO is similar in like you have like a freedom of combat type thing similar to Guild Wars 2. It, I joke that it's very much the Elder Scrolls combat of it feels rigid and kind of like kind of I think what kind of a former monk is kind of saying there too. Like it just
Yeah.
feels
I
funky.
honestly feel Guild Wars 2 has the best action combat in any MMO that I've ever played. Um, and I've played like I've played a bit of Terra. Like, that is not action combat to me, but I've played Blade and Soul. I've played Black Desert Online. All those have action combat, but I feel like it's Guild Wars 2's action combat is really nice. And I think that's due to UI 2 being a little streamlined as well, but it's just very fluid, and I think it's really hard to beat in my opinion, because when I go into other games, it's like it's not the same, and if I go to a game that doesn't have action combat, it's so hard to play. Um, I, I went back to WoW for Draenor, and I couldn't play more than 2 hours at a time, because one, it was something weird with my eyes that happened after a while. I don't know why that was. And the second thing was combat itself, because I like action combat. It's so hard for me to now not play an MMO without action combat. And I guess, and I've been trying out Final Fantasy this week, but I haven't really tried all the combat in that game, so I can't really say yet. But yeah.
Let's kind of go down the list here. A former monk also brought up like, you know, it's combat light, to be honest. But it's how it feels is what matters to them. That kind
Okay.
of reminds me of when I think, oh, I think it was Total Biscuit when he maybe he did a review or just talked about it, but it just stuck with me. Like I don't know if this is exactly what you're talking about, but like when you actually have like the hammer, I don't know, when you actually use a skill, you can kind of like when it hits something, like the sounds with it, like paralleled with it, kind of feel like you're actually like there's like weight to it. Whereas, like I
Uh,
said, going with ESO or some other games, like any weapon you hold, you don't really feel the weight behind it. You don't feel like it's colliding with anything. It's
I can understand that. Yeah.
but also MaxStat says I like how they managed to make world more important than other MMOs. For example, WoW, thanks to flying, makes you very much detached from game world. Here they designed it so you experience the world, but thanks to waypoints, it's not just tedious. I definitely
That's
have
an
to
interesting
agree.
point. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
true.
I could say open world uh, PvP and WoW became such trash once flying came out, at least for me, because everybody just hung around until one side got the bigger force, and then they started, fighting. Then it's like then the other side would do that, and then it's like then you never actually fought.
Hmm.
I don't know. Have you had any
Yeah.
experiences with that or?
I I have not. When it came to World PvP, it was only in. I think I've only experienced it in WoW and Black Desert. So Black Desert, I just get ganked right now because I don't have the gear to fight other people. So that's perfectly fine. I'm gonna die no matter what. For WoW, I didn't. I didn't get ganked too much, but um, I was like back then when I played WoW, I was like more of a PvE person, so I didn't really know how to fight as well. I'd probably be decent at it now, but you know, it was, I didn't really deal with flying PvP. It is more ground PvP, so either rogues coming to gank me or things like that. So um,
And also, I also feel with Guild Wars 2 that when they announce new content, it is actually new content. Unlike when you get new content in WoW, it's the same gift as the year before. The wrapping has just been changed.
hmm,
I I'm interested to see how expansions are going to go forward because very much this past expansion was supposed to be feature heavy. I wonder if we're going to have that if people are going to have that same feeling if they're
yeah.
not going to bring in all this slew of new features, it's going to be kind of story based in future expansions. I'm assuming there's going to be more than just the next one.
Yeah,
Because then
and
it could possibly feel that way,
yeah,
possibly.
and a lot of people are going to hold or unit to that promise. Well, not promise, but what they said. Um, that was feature heavy. So, in regards to like actual new content, I kind of agree in the mostly. There's always something new, even with recurring content. I know, like with stuff like Super Adventure Box, there hasn't been anything new the last two times, but except like there's new weapons to get. So, in some respects, you're absolutely right. It's just that for stuff like SAB, you kind of expect a little bit more than just a new weapon set, but they're just political things that go with that, or just time constraints that go with that. So, but yeah, I agree for the most part.
And they bring up if you bring up the Legion, which was WoW's latest expansion, the Broken Isles is exactly the same as Tanan Jungle in Draenor, which I unfortunately haven't played either expansion. I kind of left. I think no, Mists of Pandora was the last one I left with, so I unfortunately.
Mhm.
But I'll take your word for it. But yeah, I mean, I think that's always been that big joke. What was it, Grandma's Boy, which was that Adam Sandler esque movie or something, where they're all QA developers or something, and they kind of have that joke of like, oh, take the level 2 goblins that are blue and make them put them on level 5 and make them red or something. Like it's kind of like that, just reusing the asset. Or I mean,
Mm,
it's, I guess it's a kind of common practice. I mean, for game devs to help
yeah.
get things out faster, but yeah.
Yeah.
But
Um,
I think, like they're saying, kudos to ArenaNet for a lot of it's very much original or alterations on it. Because I mean, you could say, hey, they reskinned the Mordrum or the destroyers to the Mordrum destroyers. It's like, well, yeah, because the destroyers were corrupted. It would
yeah.
have to be a
Yeah.
reskin, otherwise that'd be really weird.
Yeah.
So
I think yeah, they do a really good job when it comes to like new maps and things like that. All the maps feel actually, even some of them are within the same region, are feel different. So that's actually a good feat on the artist's side. So kudos there.
and MaxStat's bringing up the whole idea of like dodging the idea of obsolete gear with new expansions and stuff like that. Like, yeah, and apart from like Viper's gear, as MaxStat says, which yeah, I think that's their thing, is they're always going to try to introduce new uh, weapon stat variations,
Yeah.
but
I think you'll see less of that next expansion though, because unless they add a whole new stat to it, which will
mm,
just be more confusing and yeah.
they're
But
bringing Magic
um,
Find back. No.
oh man, but yeah, I think uh, with gear, it's nice that they keep like ascended stats, like the best stats in the game, and they just roll with that and offer different types of different stat selection as type of progression in some respects. But I kind of like how my gear is never obsolete, so I can always just keep playing because um, that's one of that's one of the things that I've gotten used to a little bit too much, and so when I go into another MMO, it's like, oh, right, damn,
I got
okay,
steamrolled. How did I get steamrolled? Oh, it's because I have like horrible gear because I'm not geared enough for this spot. Or yeah, I can
yeah,
remember going back to WoW with like I know the one that name sticks out is like what, Firelands or something, which was basically like an update or whatever. But it was one of those ones where it had they have to always implement these catch up patches where it's like, hey, you can basically do normal daily quests and eventually get a couple tiers under raid gear, so you can basically catch up to if you wanted to start a raid. Which
mm,
then they have to focus on those kind of updates, whereas ArenaNet, they kind of just have to make content that people want to
want to play
hopefully play.
good
Yeah,
gear, yeah,
instead of, oh, we need them to play catch up. Like, so yeah, hopefully with the expansion, like you said, maybe they won't introduce more stat combinations, but maybe other ways, more ways to get these same stat combinations that already exist. So
yeah. So, was the story well written? Did you enjoy it?
oh boy, way to say it was a story well written. I think that's just very subjective. Like, that's kind of like looking at a art painting. I know some people will say it was written horrendously. Like, but to answer the question, did I enjoy it? I did. I mean, and actually, this kind of goes back to Colin's interview of looking back at the rose tinted glasses, because he
Mm,
brings up about like, he's like, that's the one thing he brought up about Guild Wars 1, and I think I've said it here in the past, at least from story perspective, where people are like, oh, when Guild Wars 1 was still our own, like the game that we were still developing, and that was the main focus. People were saying like, oh, this is horrible, this is bad, this is blah blah blah. He's like, as soon as Guild Wars 2 comes out, everybody's like, Guild Wars 1 was the best game ever. Like, oh, bring it back to the Guild Wars 1 days. And he's like, no, that's not what you guys were saying. Like, and like
yeah.
that's what I always talked about with the story was, I remember in Prophecies, everybody's like, this is the worst story ever, and like blah blah blah. And like now it's like people are looking back and going, Guild Wars 1 had the perfect story. Like now Guild Wars 2 is ruining it. It's like like let
So
them pull the camera back, because that's what they did with Guild Wars 1 to make it a great story. People hated in Prophecies, you know,
mm,
then when they did like the big reveal and it was all, Abaddon and everything, and then everybody's like, oh my god, we're dealing with
yeah,
gods. And so in the long run, let's let Arena pull the camera back for Guild Wars 2 and see where they go with it ultimately.
hmm.
I know it's a long
So
wait.
it's interesting that you bring up the rose tinted glass because when I first started Guild Wars 2, I started with Nightfall, and then I worked my way. I think it was Eye of the North, and then I bought the other two games, so Factions and Prophecies at the same time. Um, so my first experience was Nightfall, and I really liked the story there. I think it was really solid, and then I found out like the other expansions existed, so I and all the other campaigns existed, so I got those as well, and I played through those. And playing through prophecy, I'm thinking about it, and just playing through prophecies, I didn't feel, maybe I'm just easygoing about it when it comes to story, I guess, back then, but I felt it was like a decent story to go across. It was like going across different regions and solving different problems, and it just led to this one huge event when it came to the Lich. Um, with If you think about it chronologically, so if you go to prophecies to factions, I think the story took a step up because the focus was really Shiro and ways to defeat him, and then you go across the land, just talking with making allies and things like that. And then when you get to Nightfall, that story was I found it was good. I know people have issues with Cormier, but yeah, that I don't mind. I'm the type of person who says, you know what, be a god. It's cool with me. I don't really care.
I
Um,
mean, I always looked at it as it's a great MMO story.
yeah,
I think, because of course it's like, why didn't we become the god? Because it's an MMO. Like it's, I'm
yeah.
sorry, it's
I
never
mean, like,
gonna.
it never really bothered me, to be honest, but I never really thought about it that way. But not if I think about it, if I did the same thing again, if I went through the entire Nightfall story again, I'd probably feel the same way. It's like it wouldn't bother me as much, but maybe some people want to be gods at the end. So
Like a former monk is saying, like Eye of the North was more or less factions with more factions. I can definitely see that because you're kind of, going around. It definitely felt like, what was it, three separate paths that you were going on and then it combining. Uh,
yeah,
So
I love
it's,
that. I don't know. It was pretty hype.
hmm but yeah, a lot of like I can definitely get what you're saying about like it's kind of like the world. Like I definitely would like to have seen them expand more on like factions. Like faction. I think factions was still trying to hold on to the PvP element, and that's why it was called factions, because it's like there's these factions, and you do like what, two quests on each side or missions on each side, and then that's it. Like faction
Yeah,
wise, and like that was more for the implementation of the PvP game mode, which but yeah, I would like to have seen them expand more. And I'm sure there was just time.
yeah. When it comes to Guild Wars 2 story, because since it was out, they asked us, did you enjoy it? Um, Personal story, when it came down to that, I wasn't. I think I was just going through the motions. I did notice I kind of like the Game of Thrones part where like everyone's dying left and right as you go to near the end of the story. Um, but yeah, I feel like I was just going through the motions through it. When it came to Living World, I felt like that was where Living World Season 1, that's where things got a little bit more involved for me because, we have these specific characters that we're getting involved with and invested in. We had Scarlet, and then we're moving on into other Elder Dragons and things like that. And you feel a bit more immersed in the game. I feel like the only time I ever really got immersed into the personal story was I think like after Claw Island, I think after that I just felt like, we do become like commander of the pack, but I didn't feel as immersed. I'm not sure why. That's interesting. Now I'm just thinking about it.
Yeah.
But I didn't hate it, so as a
Well, I
plus.
mean, branching off of that, did you enjoy the content that is being added, like Living World, kind of the current events? Like, do you think that's a
I think Living Worlds was a good idea. It adds story on a regular basis, and it always changes the world. It always adds something new, or it inspires change, like in current events, things like that. When it comes to add-ons, I guess that would be like um, I'd be something like the raid testing area. That's a nice little bonus there. There could be a few more things, adjustments that I personally like, but things like that are actually kind of helpful because the community asks for some things, and Arena deliver as best as possible. I feel like so. I feel like they do well in that respect. Um, and the things that we asked for that haven't been delivered, kind of like templates, I'm hoping that's something that they're working on, because I know that might be a little bit of a pain to do.
For me, I would say I like the Living World and I like the current events thing. I really I really wish they would have found a way or had enough manpower to develop the Living World. Of course, at like a 2 week cycle, even if keeping the 2 to 3 month cycle, but finding a way to do a Living World where it was like we could do these big like Twisted Marionette, the attacks on all the zones from Scarlet, and then
Hmm.
maybe when it got retired into like the into the story thing, it was a different version that then unlocked that was like a lesser scale to that. Basically, what people have suggested for to go back and do Living World Season 1, which who knows if that's going to happen.
That probably won't
Yeah,
happen. I
yeah.
really wouldn't
But
expect it.
of course, I understand that requires a lot more manpower because you're basically creating two different versions of something, kind of like what people have suggested for the Living World Season 1. But I
Hmm.
just like that, like I kind of said back there earlier on, I like that big scale stuff, which we kind of haven't gotten really in the uh, zone maps of the Living World. I feel at
Hmm.
least. I'm trying to think like I don't know.
You
It
got a
just
point. Yeah.
yeah.
They did try to have that one-off event that was going to be kind of like Scarlet, but with I forgot what it was with. It with bandits, but it was just really bad, so they just canceled the entire thing. I forgot what it was. I
What
think
with the current events, which are like what
no, no, no.
the
It wasn't a current event. It was kind of like Scarlet Invasion, but it was more like in Brisbane Wildlands. Yeah, I
oh,
think it was. Yeah, I think it was bandits.
you
It
mean where
was
you have
all
to
like
take
in
like the
Crater,
supplies
right?
and stuff,
Sorry.
like where the generals or whatever are, like where you get the death marks or
Yeah,
something, where the supplies are. Yeah, I
it
would like to see
was.
that expanded further if that's but
Yeah, but what was it called? I forgot what it was called. It was for anyone who remembers in chat. It was kind of like Scarlet's Invasions, but it was more focusing the Crichton maps. I think it was bandits, and it was after a day. You're like after each event, you're supposed to get a certain number like of marks or something like that that you could trade in for things. But people found that the event was either broken or the rewards weren't worth it. So I think the event was
well,
kind of like scrapped.
I mean, yeah, you're talking about like where you have to go to the supply things and fight like the legendary there or whatever. Or wait, it would be
That's
a.
not the death mark. I'm not talking about like the death marks or the legendary bandits or things like that.
Oh.
I I'll look for it, but
Okay. Yeah.
I don't remember what it was called. Um,
Yeah. I'm curious if anybody that in chat knows, or if people on YouTube are watching it, maybe they know. You mean the
hmm.
Morgem Invasion weekend event? Havoc is saying. You're muted. Did.
Oh, sorry. I literally cannot remember what it was because I spent 2 hours on it
I
and then
think it
I
might have
had
been
to
the
go do
Morgem Invasion thing
something.
because it had a lot of the old Gemstore stuff that was in there, and a lot of people were like, "You, I'd have to like farm like 24/7 just to get like the shoulders or something." Or I remember we talked
Maybe
about
that
that.
was
Maybe
it.
that was it.
Maybe that was it.
So
I thought it was bandits, but maybe not. But yeah, but
yeah,
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 probably
I think that
Mordor.
is now that because it would tell us what zone they were in, and it was kind of like it was. I think it was the Maguma jungle stuff, but
Oh,
um, it's fairly close because I think it also involved
yeah,
Brisbane.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but yeah, I'd like to see more of
Wow.
that, but maybe better rewards, like some skins that you get like somewhat easily, but then maybe some Gemstore ones that they had in there that were like, you want to save up and hit it hard, you can get this basically for that. But I think that's always going to be the downside of having that gem to or gold to gem conversion. People are going to be like, well, I can just farm for gold and then convert it and save time or something. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, I'd
Well,
actually like to see that. I think that's what you're thinking of that Tavik brought up. But ooh, another question that popped up: where does the game shine the most? PVE
mm,
or PvP? And let's throw in World World. Let's be fair.
I.
Let's let's put it in
um.
there.
Oh man. Uh.
I
I
mean,
can't. I honestly, it's hard for me to choose because I play every. I've played every part of the game and I enjoy every part of the game for the most part. Um, where does the game shine the most?
I know a lot of people have like given such praise to PvP. The way it's saying where does it shine the most? Like so many people are like the combat comes alive with PvP. So maybe if you really love like the action combat oriented thing, try PvP. If you want content that's probably gonna continue to do well, I mean, let's throw out World World right there because we haven't
Mm,
really seen much of World World. But like kind of what chat saying PVE with the raids and stuff, like if you're looking for like what's gonna keep getting content on a regular basis, I think definitely PVE. I think they're really trying to figure out how to do something with PvP. Where we
yeah,
world, they're working on something in the background. It's taking you know good a while, but hopefully when that's implemented, that'll be there.
yeah,
But right now, I would have to pick PVE, or if you're a fan of the action combat, then hop into PvP. But unfortunately, with how
yeah.
seasons went last time, it's not much of a great
I'm
population.
gonna,
But yeah,
yeah,
go for it.
I'm gonna go with PVE as well, just because I feel like it's pretty solid when it comes to story or when it comes to things to do. So there's like a different variety of things in PVE. I'm not saying I'm not knocking that off PvP as or World versus World. It's just that I feel like it's a lot of the same thing without anything being different type of deal. So there's um, not much inspiring changes that you would see in PVE. I think that's why. And
Yeah,
yeah,
and
PV is the flagship mode for most
yeah, I
MMOs.
was gonna
So
say like a former monk is saying, PvE was the flagship mode. It's what the game is marketed on. Definitely, and this kind of leads into the next question because if you would say Guild Wars 2, yes, I would say the PvE flagship is a PvE flagship. Guild Wars 1, like it started as it was mainly PvP and like the PvE was kind of there. And then I think you could kind of tell throughout the stories or throughout the campaigns and then the expansion,
Yeah.
it switched from let's do more story. People are liking the story, and then it rolled into Guild Wars 2, and it was mainly focused on story and the
Yeah.
PvE concept. But
It did both really well though,
yeah,
I feel like. Um
but I know a lot
how
of
does
people are missing Guild Wars 1's PvP style, which kind of leads into the next question of how does the game compare to its predecessor, aka Guild Wars 1? Do you like the changes they made from from Guild Wars 1?
um okay, so the first thing I would say, the first thing that when I switched from Guild Wars 1 to Guild Wars 2, the first thing that I didn't like right away was that I couldn't swap between NA and EU servers. Because I played with a lot of EU people when it was near the end of when I was transitioning to Guild Wars 2. So I had to. So that's why the first year of me playing Guild Wars 2, I was on EU servers, and I played mostly with my friends there on the weekends. And sadly, they didn't play Guild Wars 1 as much, Guild Wars 2 as much as time went by. So I kind of transitioned over to NA and found a new guild and stuff like that. So that was one thing that kind of bothered me because I have NA friends, I have EU friends, so I think the lack of dervish kind of made me sad too, but that's kind of a bias for me because
I don't know. How do you like the dervish?
yeah,
Dervish was fun.
dervish was my first profession ever, and Guild Wars, and I loved it. Let's see. I'm
Well, it's
trying
like
to think.
everybody likes their first doctor. You liked your first profession, so that's
Yeah, it was a fun profession. I did 300 damage in like 2 seconds. It was great.
I liked it for the fact of if you want to try to go after the god avatar elites, it was like hard once you got the first one, but it almost was like that Mega Man mentality of once you got that one, you use that one to pit up against that one, and then
That's
like
true.
so that was actually like a fun little mini game with the dervish in of itself of trying to get
That's
all the god avatar elite skills.
That's very true. Now I think about it. Um, I think definitely I like combat in Guild Wars 2. Uh, I like it more than Guild Wars 1 because you feel more immersed. You have more actions to do. So I feel like it's really good in that respect. Story-wise, I'd say it's kind of like 50-50 because I think both Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2 did story well. Otherwise, it would come down to like secondary professions versus like non-secondary professions, and I guess that's subjective to the way you played your game, because secondary professions offered you that flexibility in like becoming like a healer necro or something like that, so yeah. In
I
Guild
mean, I
Wars
don't know
2,
about the PvP scene, but
every button smash you can sign up for you. I don't feel
if
that.
that's the
I don't
case,
feel
I should be a pro, and that's just not true.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was to say, like I think what QD was getting at, and what a former monk is saying about the combat, Guild Wars 1 combat. Like, and I think that's the big thing. Like, how does the game compare to its predecessor? If you're looking at it from a game perspective, it's really hard to compare, just because, as much as like Guild Wars 1, I can't really consider it a huge MMO like Guild Wars 2 or WoW or something, because you had your hub world, and then where you met everybody, and then you went into an instanced area. So
Mm,
it's not a massively multiplayer, except in
yeah.
those hub instances.
Yeah. I will
So,
say, yeah, Guild Wars 1
but you
did
can definitely play
instancing
it more like a
everywhere.
tactical. Like if you get all heroes and hench, or now I guess you can just get all heroes. Um, like you can play that like a tactical game, like send this guy here, use those skills. Like you can play 8 characters at once if you want to. Like
It was great.
yeah,
I love that change.
Yeah,
It's
so
like
you
I
could
can
treat it
customize
like an
everything.
MMO if you have like 8 friends, like you're all playing those roles, or you can treat it like a tactical RPG style game that's more fast paced. Like
That's true. I really
so,
like that.
yeah, I think Guild Wars 1 is great for that. Of course, Guild Wars 2 doesn't have that. Of like,
I'm
can't.
secretly hoping Mox is the first of that.
I was gonna say, as much as you'd want to control one of the other people, like in your raid, going, you're not doing. Let me just do it. You can't.
I kind of want Mox to be like the first introduction to heroes for Guild Wars 2. That'd be amazing. It was like we have to fix them up and things like that. And,
I don't know how that would even like.
I don't know how that would work either, but it'd
Yeah,
be fun. Um,
Moxie the
Dervish.
Dervish confirmed.
Oh, that'd be so much fun. Warriors would probably get that though. Feels bad. Um, Another thing I feel like is Guild Wars 1 did instancing better than Guild Wars 2. But I feel like
Yeah.
Guild Wars 2 is a little bit bigger, so I guess it gets a pass on that. Also, Guild Wars 1 has templates, so
Yeah, I would
beat
like templates and kind of like what you were saying and what QED brought up is like the server system. I would love to see that, like, you know, being able to play with anybody on any side. I don't know how intensive it is, but
yeah.
because especially you can invite them to the guild. I remember back in GBN days, it's like we had a couple EU people, and like it's like, oh, we're doing this fun event, and then like they're like, oh, we're at blah, blah, blah. It's like all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, I'm on EU, and I'm like, I can't help you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, feels bad. Guild Wars 1 UI and build system was better suited to templates, but you know, you kind of when you go from Guild Wars 1 to Guild Wars 2, you kind of there's that expectation.
And
I
it just
guess.
feels like a lot of the changes they made with like the skills, the traits, seems like they're really trying to make it go more towards a system that could handle templates easier. So hopefully, I mean, no, we don't have any way of knowing, but honestly, do I like the changes they made from Guild Wars 1 in the sense of when they first pitched Guild Wars 2 and they basically said it's basically Guild Wars 1's lore continued, but you can meet friends out in the open world. I was like, so you're saying it's, I'm sorry for people that are going to say this or hear this. So you're saying it's like WoW, where I can go out in the open world, find someone, be like, hey, we're doing this thing, come with us, invite them to the group, or in this case, you didn't even have to invite them to the group. But with Guild Wars 1 lore, I was like, where do I put my money? Like, this was their initial pitch, and I'm like, yes, already yes. And
Yeah.
So yeah, I was in love at first, because like I said, I loved Guild Wars 1's world and kind of like story behind it. They're expanding upon it, and it's kind of that aspect of, because a lot of times I'd like get some of my WoW friends that I was starting to play Guild Wars 1 more so, and I'm like, oh yeah, hop in. They had it, and it's like sometimes they would show up or someone would log in and they're like, oh hey, what are you doing? Oh, I'd like to do that. Well, I'm already halfway through the mission. I don't want to end it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be a jerk, but in this case, it's like, hey, come out to the closest waypoint. Let's, So that's one change that I loved. I mean, so.
That's interesting. I never
Ooh.
thought about that. That's interesting.
But honestly, Guild Wars 2 could have just been a WoW clone, and I would have played it just as much. I mean, if you ask some people on the internet to come to us, I'm just saying what some people on the internet would say. But
so, what would you change about the game if you could, Dale? You have unlimited potential,
unlimited power,
unlimited money. Just go for it.
Get templates in ASAP. I would get my Ellie summoning weapon stuff back to a good spot so I can play my favorite build.
How about things for the game, not just for your Ellie?
But I have unlimited power. I don't need to care about anybody else. Um, what would I change about the game if I could? Oof. I mean, I would like to once again, hopefully, find a way to make those like bigger scale events like Twisted Marionette. Like I said, because that's the interesting thing. They never, like with the new maps, it kind of just seems like they're all funneling towards this meta event. At least with the hot maps, it's like that's not what those were. They were just random, like, oh my god, it's attacking now, like type of thing. And then of course, it had like build up quests to it, but so I don't know. I'd like to see the difficulty of some of the hot metas, like from like, but like in the style of like the world of bosses from Core Tyria, where all of a sudden the event's happening, not all of this is leading up to that event. I mean, I like both aspects, though. I mean, I think it should have enough for everyone. But Living World Season 1. Yeah, I guess if I had unlimited power and ability, then yes, I think that would be definitely a gimme. Like, but
that's actually a good one. Who would you say Guild Wars 2 caters to? Personally, I would say to people who like to play MMO games, but who also like to play casually. This is not a knock on casual players at all. I mean this as in people who want to spend time enjoying the aspects of an MMO, but don't want the backlash of like subscriptions or being behind in gear and things like that. So I think that's,
and as a former monk says, sane people.
Sane people.
Yeah, and honestly, they also have their raids, so you could get like the, I don't even know if you could say hardcores of hardcore people, because I think they could burn through it really fast. Like,
yeah, I would.
I think I still think they're still early on. They're still trying to find their raid stride, like kind of like what they're doing with PvP. They're still trying to find what's going to work and what's they're still trying to perfect this system that just came out in this expansion. Like raids are only what is it now? A year or 2 years now? I forget. It's been I think it's only been a year, like a year and a half almost, coming up to 2 years.
A year and a half, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's for a raid system where they didn't seem like they were ever intending for raids. They kind of just brought them with Heart of Thorns. They're, still trying to figure it out. And
yeah. So, some people have brought up. Yeah.
I was gonna say, I know Zlint is bringing up doing traditional questing. Oof.
Which is it's interesting because it's kind of like, because kind of traditional questing is kind of like just for you, right? It's not like for everyone. It's just for yourself in that respect. It kind of really depends on the quest that you get. So. It'd be very interesting how that could work in Guild Wars 2, if anything. I think it could work together with Dynamic, actually. I think that may actually be pretty good.
Yeah, I was saying, I think I feel like they tried to capture that idea with the collections a little bit, because even like if you highlight over some of the collections, it'll be like, one that's popping in my head is when you're trying to get that thing that eats blood starch, the crab thing or whatever. It kind of gives you hints of where it's at, like, and they've kind of done that more and more with like, oh, I'm trying to find this thing. Oh, it's a little hint there. So, like, I think they're trying to do traditional quests without doing traditional quests a little bit, but from an open world standpoint, personally, for me, I just wouldn't want to go to like a quest hub, pick up a bunch of things, and move on with
Well,
that's me.
Yeah. I feel like you could still level up without the questing. I feel like that would be like a quality of life type of additional thing where people who like that type of questing could actually do it and level up in that respect. It's kind of like adding on to the play how you want mentality that Guild Wars 2 has. So I think it'd be not bad. So QD actually hit on automated tournaments for PvP. I honestly feel like changes I would like is kind of like an automated tournament system. I know they're working on something like it, so hopefully that comes in. I would like better balancing, more regular balancing for the game, as up to 6 months would be fine for me, but like some sort of changes every now and then just to keep things fresh and new. For World versus World, I just do a complete rehaul. So if I have unlimited money, unlimited power, I can hire the people to do it, and then we would iterate over it in betas, and we would listen to like feedback from World versus World players. We would iterate over it regularly, and we would actually get World versus World where players want it to be at. For guild halls in particular, I would increase the size of the arena that's in there so that you can support 10 versus 10 fighting, and I would also make instancing a little bit better so that you can easily, in Guild Wars 1 where you can invite someone to your guild hall type of deal, that I would implement in Guild Wars 2 for guild halls, because that is kind of important for the game. Templates,
I do think,
obviously,
because I think the guest fee, I think the guest invites costed like some in that game it was gold, but it would be like equivalent to like maybe silver. But would you want that as well, or like as like
I think it'd be fine if it was silver. I mean, because I know Roy, he's a World versus World person, and he tried to organize a tournament for like just guild versus guild, and it was extremely difficult to get all the people into the same guild hall. So that's why I bring that up. You can just introduce AP. That's an idea as well. Let's see what else.
I mean, one thing I would like, if I had unlimited power, the thing I would do, put more like little toy bundle things in the Gemstore, like the water balloon bucket. Like, we made so many fun games. I would love to see more of the, like, I've asked for it. I know, with all my power, I want more little toys. But yeah, like, I'd love to see like more things, especially because I like the water balloon bucket over like the other toys of like the broom and stuff, where you have that item and it's just for you. The water balloon bucket, you set it down, everybody can partake, so it's an even playing field, so you can make games around it. That's a couple things we did. Love to see more of that, like, different things like of that, where so you can invite people into the thing instead of, does everybody have this particular item that you had to get from the Gemstore, like basically either forked over real cash or gold, which that's usually a hard sell. Like, we're gonna use it one time this week, can you get it? Like, no, I'm never gonna ask someone to do that. Like, but if I have that water balloon bucket, it's like, boom, here, everybody pick one up and let's have a
QD says remove World vs. World and reintroduce alliance battles. That would eliminate the whole server wagon thing. That's very possible. I mean, it's alliance battles are just basically things like Kurzik versus Lux and things like that. So I enjoyed those. So another change I make is events that affect hearts pop more often. What does that? Do you understand what that means?
Another change.
I'd make events that affect
hearts. You mean events that are around the hearts? I'm assuming.
So that you can complete hearts a little quickly.
Okay, yeah.
Make leveling smoother too. That's actually an idea. Yeah.
I just thought of something of the whole World v. World and bringing factions back, alliance battles. What if, from a lore standpoint, if whatever we go back to Cantha at some point, and we already have those two factions, but at the end with kind of a former monk brought it up, Guild Wars Beyond, we had the what were they called? Something of Change. I know the whole thing was Winds of Change, but I don't think that was their
Oh, I
organization.
don't remember the organization
But
name.
or there were something of Purity, I think.
And that would be
I,
the third faction.
yeah, what if that was the third faction to keep that all there, but now we have those three factions that now it's not server based. Ministry of
Yeah.
Purity, okay.
Someone told me, someone brought up in my chat a couple days ago, that only having 3 servers now, well, this is if you kept World versus World, I guess, and you did the 3 faction thing, that it would reduce competitiveness, and that you would just have one server winning all the time. So I was thinking a reduction in servers, so that you would keep 9 servers maximum, so that you have 3 tiers. And I think that would be a good balance for both regions. But if we're scrapping World versus World and just bringing back alliance battles and have 3 factions, I think that'd be interesting too. Because technically, you could still play like for whatever faction you wanted, right? I'm trying to
I mean, I don't know
remember.
how the server thing would work, but with the different factions, I mean, in Guild
Yeah,
Wars One, you just had to. I think you could join either side. I mean, with a little bit of,
yeah,
because I know they would swap back and forth. Some guilds would. So while it was difficult, it wasn't like super difficult. But
yeah. Oh yeah, and definitely remove the barrier between EU and A.
yeah.
I would love that. I would love that so much. I honestly would. It would really, like, it would help me play with EU people, and I could still play with NA people at the same time, and that'd be really great.
I
I
agree.
honestly.
Because I
Um,
look at it as, I mean, if someone's electing to do that, I mean, they're electing to deal with like the ping or whatever. I mean, so yeah, let them
yeah,
freely do it. I mean, if it's physically or able to. I mean,
it's possible, yeah. And the last 2 things, like off the top of my head, would be um, reduce the time it makes to make armor, because we all know the 9-month cycle is really long. So if I could find a way to streamline that, that'd be great. And what was the last point I was going to make? Right, Tengu. Tengu is playable race. There you go.
sounds like a pretty solid list, and can't wait to hear what some people are going to say on YouTube, and everybody that brought up their comments. But for the sake of time, let us look towards the Gemstore. Hey, if we spend stuff at the Gemstore, they will have enough money to do all this stuff. This isn't a promise.
Money.
Yeah. Oh, Zlint, don't make me. You trying to make me go back? You were saying the right words. You're angering my dogs. Let us look at the Gemstore, and always thank you to Dolphy, Dolphy.net. Check out Dolphy.net so you can spend your gems more wisely. First up, we have the replica Mirror of Lissa Focus Skin, 600 gems. So, and you can see it is the one that is shattered. So,
Yeah.
it's not it doesn't come with a secondary skin that's the actual just solid mirror. It's just the shattered one in of itself. So, are you a fan of it, or would you pick it up, or?
I'm not a fan that they're selling me a broken mirror, but I think I like the back of the mirror, especially. Like, there's not a lot, to me, there are not a lot of good focus skins, and this is actually one of the ones that are actually pretty decent.
I mean, there's only one correct one, Brosia.
Yes,
But
and Berger, I know. But for those of us who do not play Norn, this is a nice substitute, I guess. It's not bad, but it's better than most focuses, in my opinion. So.
And I know Zlint, the skin that should have been unlocked during the recent patch, but that's very much, they do that with every patch. There's always some skins that, and I mean, kind of when they talked about, oh god, we're gonna get back into that argument of what was the Zera's face
There's
mask?
mass.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like they're two different teams. It's like, yeah, I know you know, but in case there's someone out there that's ready to type that in, but yeah, they've talked in the past. It's two separate teams that are designing it, and it it's
Yeah.
unfortunately, you know, at least the
It's weird
skin's
how
out
that
there, and you can't
works.
get it with gold, unfortunately. And once again, that's the whole, farm it up, and that I'm not a huge fan of that, but it is an option.
Hmm.
But what were you gonna say, Age?
I was gonna. Yeah, I was just gonna say like it's at this point when it came to the raid stuff, it's like at this point it doesn't really matter anymore to me. But it's kind of weird how it works because you would think all these ideas would like be developed at one point, but I guess it's like it's thought about afterwards, and it's like it's put into the Gemstore as an afterthought. It's like, oh, we should put this in there. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just interesting how it works.
Next up we have some discounted items. First up we have the Bram's Bitterfrost Frontier Pack, 2,000 gems, which are 24% off, which is 5 Frost Dies, Total Makeover Kit, Bram's Wolf Blood Outfit, Air's Legacy Longbow, and Mini Garm, which you can see in the first scene right there, kind of flipping through. Also the Electromagnetic Ascender and Descender Glider combo for 500 gems, that's 23% off. And the Mersat Robes outfit, which is 490 gems, which is 30% off. And do note the Bram outfit and the Mersat Robes are an outfit, so it's all or nothing. You can hide the head slot, and you can kind of see the dye channels for the outfits there. The Electromagnetic Ascender and Descender Glider combo. Usually these are like a backpack thing, but weirdly this one, one of them's a toy, it's kind of a travel toy, which its best way to put it is it's a mount that doesn't have a speed increase, because you can kind of equip it and from your inventory double click on it, and you can kind of set it so now they have a button where when you hit it, you'll bring out your weapons, and when you fight, after you kill it, it will actually put you back on that toy item. So it's basically a mount without a speed boost. And then the glider combo, which looks similar, but you can kind of pair those, so it looks like you're always riding electrical sparks. It looks pretty awesome. I actually have it on one of my characters, kind of that setup. So
Nice.
but your thoughts on those bits? Do you think any of them's a good deal? Recommend pick 'em up?
I feel like Minnie's Garm's good. I have the Ram outfit. If you want the package, I guess 200 gems is kind of steep, I think. But if you want the Bram's Wolfblood outfit, the Air Legacy Longbow, I think it's worth it. Maybe. I'm not sure if it's worth it separately because it's like 1,600 gems.
Yeah,
so I guess
it really
if you
depends on
want
how much
one more
the
thing,
person wants it. I mean,
I say if you want Bram's Wolfblood outfit, Air's Legacy Longbow, and one more thing, it's in there. It's worth it. That's what I'll say. Otherwise, you can just buy it separately.
Yeah. Also, we have some armor. So we have the Phoenix Light Armor skin for 640 gems. That's 20% off. And the Trickster Light Armor skin for 640 gems, which is also 20% off. So definitely can pick those up. Also, you can get Flame Dye Kit I think this is the first time ever the dye kits have been put on sale. So 40% off. It's 75 for 1, 5 for 300, 25 for 1,500 gems. And like we always said, it is kind of taking a chance on it, because it is a certain pool of those types of dyes in with common ones you can get in game. So you are taking a risk, but it is 40% off this time. So
I like the Phoenix Light Armor skin. It's definitely one I'd pick up.
Yeah, I definitely do like it. Especially, like, I weirdly like the male version, like for almost like a almost. When I look at it, I think of like a pompous spellcaster because they kind of have those weird like shoulder pieces that are like almost like just rings. It's like man,
Yeah.
this guy's like a teacher of magic. Like he's
Yeah,
he knows how
that's
to
a
do
good
the
one.
magic, but he's never gonna do it. Like
That's a good way to look at it. Yeah, I like the male one actually, which is kind of rare to say, but I kind of like the male and the female at the same
hmm.
time.
Let us see some stuff available for 6 day. Well, 6 days only. On the left, Wings of Love glider for 400 gems, box of chocolates for 250 gems, and a bouquet of roses for 250 gems. And you can see right there, that's the Wings of Love glider. Available for only 3 more days is you can see over there, the Marjorie axe skin for 600 gems, and also the Marjorie dagger skin for 600 gems. So
Nice. I actually need the dagger to complete the set because I have the axe. Um, Wings of Love Glider, it's not for me, but if you like it, go for it.
I have it for reasons, but it's only on that one particular character, by Dabio the Romantic.
Yeah, I knew it. The box of chocolates. If you only want it for the miniaturizing effect, I would highly suggest going into like Dork and buying the same item off one of the hard NPCs instead.
Yeah, I was gonna say the box of chocolates actually has a ability to make you tiny and one to make you bigger, which Age is saying, like Doric has the small tonic, everlasting tonic, and I think this newest one, Draconis, actually has the embiggening tonic, but
Yeah.
Oh, the new legendary torch would be perfect for Davi.
But yeah, and bouquet of roses I do have, but I haven't used them in a while. I haven't trolled anyone with a while with those. I should do that. That's
Those are
the only
pretty fun.
reason I bought it. That's the only reason I bought it, to troll people with it.
But we can actually talk about the legendary torch probably after show, and we might actually save it for when we actually have all 4 people back, hopefully next week. But just so we can have one show that stays under 2 hours. Age, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube at Age Night Road. I recently put up my Flashpoint episode videos. It's 3 parts, and I kept most of the dialogue stuff. So, none of the running around Draconis moans. And I recently hit 600 followers, so I should be doing a 16-hour stream sometime in the near future. So, yeah.
Cool. And you can find me at something_down on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. And if you are just popping at the very end, we usually do a after show. We'll probably do a shorter one this week, but if you want to watch the show, we do put these up on, we do highlight it on Twitch, but we do put it up on YouTube. If you search Talking Skritt, we're usually the first one that pops up on YouTube. We put those up on Sunday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And if you're watching on YouTube, if you can make it out for the live show, like I said, we're going to be talking a little bit more stuff after show, and we usually do a pre-show. That's usually more relaxed. That goes up Saturdays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. And as always, we will see you in the game. Good night, everybody.
Night all.